Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, the radio show all about traveling like a boss by being your own boss. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have built their own online businesses. If you would like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit travellikeabosspodcast.com for instant access. And here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey guys, it's Johnny and welcome to episode 126 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here with Phil Svrela, the CEO of Finobotech, which is a multi-million dollar company that he founded, which we're going to talk about. But mainly, we want to talk about us traveling like a boss these last week or two. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Thank you, Johnny, for having me.
Yeah, so Phil's actually fraternity buddies with Sam Marks, who is the third musketeer on this trip. How did you actually meet Sam, and how did you get involved on this trip?
Sam and I got to know each other back at Florida State a few years ago. We were in the same fraternity. I'm a year older than Sam, but Sam is pretty well known. Everyone knows Sam, and I'm just one of those guys.
Nice. So both you and Sam are pretty successful now. Do you think a lot of that had to do with being in the fraternity? Like, what are your advice to like young college guys who are thinking about if they should join or not?
That's a pretty good question. I figure sometimes that like-minded people tend to associate with each other, and it seems like with different fraternities or different groups or organizations that those people have things in common. So it's not really a surprise to see that there's two successful people that were in the same group. At the foundation of it, yes, I think that it can certainly help. I can't imagine a situation where it'd be a hindrance to join a fraternity in any way.
Really? So actually, before we even get to all that, we have to mention where we are, because we're actually not even in a country right now.
That's true. I was hoping you'd point that out. It's quite interesting. Where are we at?
So we just left Moldova, which is the poorest country in Europe. We got our passports stamped to leave, but now we are in no man's zone, those few miles between Moldova before we can get into the Ukraine.
That's right. We're in about an hour of traffic right now. We're pulled off the side of the road along some cornfields. Very small border checkpoint. Looks like almost like an old gas station. And we're just in line waiting to get our passports stamped.
Yeah, so I figured, this is perfect time to start this podcast because there's no service on our phones. There's no Wi-Fi. There's nothing to do. I mean, literally, like, we look outside and there are just cars lined up trying to cross into the Ukraine. So why did you come on this trip?
Honestly, you and Sam are associates, friends, and you were traveling a few months through Europe, and Sam wanted to join you on the last leg so that he could eventually make his way to Kiev, and he had posted online that he was planning to do this trip and was looking for anyone else interested in joining, and it's a perfect time in my schedule, my work life to join in, so I booked a ticket and got to meet you.
That's pretty cool that like you're able to just see an old friend who you haven't seen since college, right?
Absolutely.
And you guys are friends on Facebook still. You kind of see what's going on in each other's lives, and he posts, "Hey, who wants to come join me on this epic adventure?" And you're like, "Yeah, I can do that."
That's exactly it. With social media and the folks that you and I have met in our journeys, more so you in your past 3 months throughout Europe, we're probably going to stay connected with these people throughout the years, and it's interesting to see, how you're going to connect with them in the future and the possibilities for those future relationships.
So one example of that is when I was in Moldova, my buddy Francis Wolf, who I have not talked to since like 2007 or 2008, he's actually the first guy ever to show me how to edit videos. He used to edit snowboarding videos, and when I was in LA, I was making these whatever stupid videos, and he kind of showed me over his shoulder like, I'll do it for you. And he didn't even really teach me. He was kind of just doing it and saying, do you want to cut here, do you want to title here? And watching him do it just over his shoulder, I realized it's like, this is so easy, I could do this myself.
Now this is the guy you met in LA?
Yeah, I met him in LA. Have not seen him or spoken to him since 2007. So
that's wild.
However, it's 8 years. And he saw on Facebook that I was in Romania. Well, we were in Romania. And he just messages me, gives me a bunch of tips. He's like, hey, make sure you eat at this restaurant, make sure you see this, stay at this place. And it's because of him that we found Therm.
Oh yeah, so Johnny's going to tell you about Therm, but and I thank him graciously for getting the news about that. It turned out to be one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. Johnny, why don't you give a summary of what that was like?
So basically, our very first day we arrived in Bucharest, Romania. None of us liked it. Like there was nothing to do there. I
actually did not find it that displeasing.
Yeah, what I think what it is compared to all the other capitals I've been to in this trip. I think if you because for you it was like your second stop, right? Because you joined us where?
I joined in Sofia, Bulgaria, and Bucharest was our second stop. And for you, you've been, traveling these big cities throughout Europe, so you've kind of seen the old buildings and the cafes and, the different types of people. I had just came from South Florida, and I had been there for a while. I haven't taken a big trip for quite a bit. So for me, it was surprising. For you, I think you're kind of over it. But
yeah, I can imagine that. And, it's actually great to have that fresh perspective where, I think, so Sam actually mentioned this. I don't know where he read it, but he said that the difference between someone who really enjoys travel and someone who doesn't, even someone who's finally has a lot of money or someone who's still broke, is a big difference between happiness and not is if you appreciate things or if you expect things. So expectation versus appreciation.
I think to even build on that a little bit further, throughout my travels when I was younger, I was kind of working on a smaller budget traveling, and you aren't able to enjoy the things that are available. And a really good example of this is you had taken us to, when we were in that small town in the Transylvania area, the #1 rated restaurant called Forest. Very neat place. It's connected to a hotel, but it's kind of surrounded by trees. You're kind of in the forest. Almost looks like a tree house, and it's the #1 rated place. And it, relatively wasn't expensive to what you'd spend maybe in the States, but here, and it was like maybe the most expensive restaurant in town. But you're right, to be able to have that budget when you travel and to get to experience everything and not have to think twice about it, it's a really good feeling.
So thank you, Francis, for that recommendation of that restaurant as well. So kind of touching on that, it's I think going to all these other capitals, before like Prague or Vienna or these places are so beautiful, and also it was very like safe. Mm-hmm. It felt just everything was just kind of laid out well. There was lots to do. It's easy. And when I went to Sofia when we met up there, it was also it was nice, but I was like, okay, this is in general it's not as nice as like the other European countries. And then when we got to Bucharest, it was like another step down. And then I think my expectations were too high. I was kind of expecting every country, every capital to be more beautiful, more grand, or be set up even nicer. So when I got there, I think my expectations were too high. And when I found out there's not that much to do there, the infrastructure's not really there, and the safety wasn't there, all of a sudden, instead of me appreciating, seeing a new country, I was like comparing it to these other ones, thinking, oh, this isn't as good.
Yeah, that's a good point. You had been traveling and you were kind of almost working downwards, instead of rather than starting from Moldova and kind of working your way up to, the well-known Paris and Prague and, Warsaw, things like that. You're kind of working backwards. So yeah, I can certainly see how you felt that way.
By the way, we have to mention what is in front of us right now in the car. We're like pretty much like right in the front of the line, and we see two things. One right in front of us and one to our right. Can you see it?
Yeah. So we're about next in line. Well, one of the lines we're next, and there is a female guard, and she has a large gun, and
machine gun, like an AK-47. She's in army fatigue with boots and a hat, but describe how she looks.
Is it appropriate to comment that
she's hot?
Yeah, she's pretty hot. I mean, she's probably the when you go to the costume store for Halloween and the girls are deciding between the cat outfits and this is the sexy military outfit, and it looks pretty good.
Like, she is a gorgeous, like super beautiful girl. I don't know how comfortable I am taking a photo of her because she has an AK-47. Sam, could you try to get a photo of her? But
I don't know. Sam's getting out of the car now.
He has no shirt on.
He has no shirt on. He's taking a. I don't know if he should do this. Is he?
It's okay.
Is it okay?
That's fine. It's fine. Yeah, das. So our driver is, he's like, it was on top. Oh, it's right there. So our driver's, kind of just say, Sam, do whatever you want to do. We'll see what happens. But actually, so to the right, do you see that building over there?
I can't see.
Just that right there.
Oh, this little one, sure.
It is. You know that bunker out of StarCraft?
No, Sam.
No. So our driver is like saying,
he's telling
shaking
us
his head,
not to go,
saying Sam is doing something stupid.
Sam.
But
Sam.
But he's not stopping him. Driver just got out of the car. Sam's walking with no shirt.
Oh, Sam,
with his camera.
No.
He's asking if he can take a picture.
And,
the guy's shaking his head.
The guy's clearly shaking his head.
Our driver had to get out to stop him. I think Sam's going to sneak a photo anyways, though. So if we can get this for the show notes of this episode, it's going to be amazing.
I think they're allowing the driver to take a picture of Sam with kind of the...
no, Sam's coming back.
They said no.
Oh my God. This is such a good photo. She looks like she can be a Victoria's Secret like angel.
Maybe she is. Maybe she's undercover to convince guys like us, hey, what are you secretly doing here? What do you have in your bags?
Okay. So we had this missile turret on the right, It's like it's straight up a bunker from StarCraft. Have you played that game?
I haven't. I'm familiar with what this is. It's about a 3 foot by 4 foot concrete. It's a bunker. It's a small hole in the middle, just enough
room
to
put a couple guns
guns in your face to see where you're shooting at.
And in StarCraft, you could fit 4 people in there with machine guns or flamethrowers. I'm pretty sure this one fits. Maybe. Yeah, I think I see 4 people as well. It's pretty small.
I'd probably say 2, maybe 3, because you have your gear on you and your guns.
That's true. Okay, so this is where we're doing this podcast from, in no man's land, going into Ukraine.
I was kind of surprised you wanted to pull this equipment out, because I was thinking that they'd look at these wires. So you can't see it, folks, but Johnny has his laptop here and some USB cords and wires and chargers and microphones and some mixer equipment, and we're in the back. And I don't know, if I was a guard at a border crossing and I saw this set up, I'd be suspicious.
You know what? Or fascinated. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
But I just figured, instead of us wasting time, just sitting around in this heat, we might as well do something productive. And apologize to all the listeners for not being on schedule, because when I'm in Chiang Mai, I'm meeting entrepreneurs all the time. I have all this time in my hands, so I'm putting out episodes every week on time. And now it's thanks to people on Twitter and Facebook messaging me saying, "Hey, when's the next episode coming out?" that I'm actually like, "Oh man, it's already been a week."
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm shocked at 126 episodes so far. That's amazing. It doesn't sound like you guys are stopping anytime soon. It's really cool, and I appreciate it.
No, I mean, this is like a great way to share, cool people that we meet. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a great idea.
Yeah. And I mean, so the fact is, a lot of people, are planning their trips based on us kind of like forging through and kind of figuring out what are the best places to visit, especially if you're like a digital nomad. If you want to like work and be able to travel.
You're essentially the guinea pig of the travel, it sounds like. You're putting yourself first and then going through the experiences. And we may learn the lesson of, if you ever do that, what we're doing now is don't get out of the car and take pictures and don't have your computer set up. So we'll let you know shortly if that's appropriate or not.
There you go. So if you guys have saw my travel guide for Bulgaria, okay place to co-work. Sofia was decent, nice city overall.
It was a small city, just up and coming. There was like one main strip of shops. Yeah. What did you think of Burgas?
So Burgas was the next place we went to, which is the beach town on the Black Sea, also in Bulgaria. It was nice. The beaches were fun. We had some beers and we drank, but it was like the beaches are super crowded. They weren't as nice as like the beaches in Thailand, for example. I know kind of nitpicky, but it's one of those things where like, because we had the choice of going to wherever we want in the world, like why would we fly all the way to Bulgaria to go to a beach that is not as good as and is more overcrowded? I mean, overall, I don't regret going. It was a nice place to go.
You should never regret going on any of your travels unless you truly have a terrible experience. You get taken advantage of. Your luggage could just get stolen, something like that. But otherwise, you just got to record the memories as you're doing now. Take some good photos and cherish the opportunity. You had a chance to go there. Even not the place itself, but the journey getting there is something to be valued.
So then the journey from Burgas, Bulgaria, to our next stop, which was Romania. Bucharest, Romania. Do you remember how difficult it was for us to try to figure out a way to get to the next city?
So this is something, these guys know that we're traveling with, but myself as an entrepreneur and, business-minded individual is the inefficiencies of how things are handled. Even today, we're forming 2 or 3 lines. There's no clear one direction, and these buildings are small, and you'd think that, a business or an organization would seize every opportunity to make things better, to work with and increase their efficiency. And as Johnny was saying, for the bus situation, there's nothing online. The schedules that do exist, they don't apply. Getting tickets for his particular bus that he was speaking of, you have to get it from the bus driver. You kind of have to get there as fast as you possibly can to fight the next person for the seat. And it just seems like the worst way to handle things. And especially for, someone that wants to get ahead. Yes, we have internet reliability, but still, there's certainly better ways to get things done.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I like about traveling so much is we see how, even like, let's say like restaurants are run, like how, like, for example, one thing that they have all across Europe that we don't have in the US is when you want to pay with your credit card, instead of the waitress the server taking your card, going to some undisclosed location, swiping your card, coming back, having a sign, they bring the machine with them.
Yeah, that's it's an interesting experience. In the beginning, I didn't care for it because they're kind of when they go to pay and you pull out your card, they kind of swipe it right away, not really getting you the chance to review it. But on the same hand, I think the benefits are, like Jenny said, they don't take your card away from you, so you see what's happening. They kind of let you look at the machine in advance if you want to and see before you hit enter. And you know exactly what your charge is going to be. They don't have the opportunity to swipe it later on or add a $50 tip.
Well, actually, one annoying thing is we want a tip, and they don't let us put a tip onto the credit card bill.
Yeah, and I felt kind of odd asking that, if that was normal or usual. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if we should have been more proactive and say, hey, we'd like to add a tip. I'm not sure.
I think what it is they don't have an easy way to basically give the server the tip from off of the credit card. So then they would rather just have cash. So and it makes it hard because especially let's say it's a business lunch or something, and if you're using card, you don't have cash on you.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd. I wonder if they're more. You're right. Maybe they want the cash, but they're kind of taking that risk that, like you said, they don't have any, or maybe you only have a few bucks. So it's certainly a toss up.
Yeah, and I think in the U.S., in the beginning, 10 years ago, waitresses or servers preferred having cash, especially for tips. But now I think it's just such a part of the whole experience where they're I think people know that if you're putting on a card, you're probably going to end up tipping more. You probably end up tipping 20% versus if it's cash, you end up tipping less. So it all kind of adds up, even it evens out, even if you factor in things like tax or taking away the 2% fee or something.
I think it's a really good point. And I wonder the difficulties that the restaurants face. We were just talking about inefficiencies, but perhaps we're wrong in that the restaurants face 5 hours at the end of the night, taking off tips and trying to, divide them among the waitresses. So maybe they have it right.
Yeah, definitely. So we're actually at the stop right now. With our driver just walked out with all of our passports. All right. So we just kind of, I guess we're still halfway through passport control.
Oh, we're certainly not done with the process yet. We had to, they came to the car and a couple people came in and inspected and wanted to go through the bags and we're asking some questions, and I was kind of nervous even though we weren't doing anything wrong. But
yeah, so kind of a crazy experience because you got a bunch of Ukrainian guys yelling at you in army outfits and we have no idea what they're saying. And we have our driver who is a super cool guy. Actually, where is he from?
He's I think he's Ukrainian himself, but he's been living in Moldova for 3 years, and before that he was in Poland for a while, and I think even Portugal. So we'd certainly found a good guy to connect with.
Yeah, it was really random how you found him, and it was so cheap. I mean, he's driving us from one capital city 3 hours into another country, and he's charging us what?
It was 1,000 Moldovan, and the exchange rate right now is about a one US to 20, so 1,000 divided by 20, so 50 US for about a 4-hour drive plus an extra hour at the border.
And for 3 people, which is $15 each, $20 each.
I don't
insane.
get it. Yeah.
But we're definitely gonna give this guy a tip because he's a super cool guy. But to be fair, the only reason why we're actually taking a private car and not a train is because the train the train normally leaves at 7:30 a.m., which is a bit early, but we would have done it. But they only run on certain days.
Yeah, they run on the weekend, and again, this is going back to the kind of the inefficiency of what we found here is there's this lack of information online, and it's very cheap to put things online. I know it's kind of new, but on the way here, think of how many hundreds of people we saw waiting on the side of the road because you don't know when that bus is coming, if it's running today, if it's not, and you kind of just waste your own time. And I guess if you got a lot of time, it's okay, but for folks that our time is kind of really our money, we don't have time to waste, which is exactly why we're in this.
Well, here's a crazy thing. I mean, really think about it is you're telling me a story earlier about how you hired a guy or you put a job posting on Craigslist for someone to bring some tiles up for you from the ground floor to the third floor. Yeah. And you're saying how people that lived an hour away or 2 hours away were willing to come and just make $30 because they didn't value their time.
Yeah, we had this discussion this morning kind of about this taxi. We were laughing over breakfast of how cheap it was, or I shouldn't say laughing, we were surprised. And I was telling Johnny the story of I had just bought my first condo and I had to bring some tile upstairs, and I certainly couldn't take all of it myself, so I put an ad on Craigslist looking for people to just bring it up, literally carry a box of tile up and down the stairs for maybe about an hour or so. And I had gotten emails from folks in Miami, which is about an hour away, and the guy wanted to know exactly what time to be there because he had to take 2 buses and a train and another bus to get over here. And I said, hey, this is only gonna be an hour or so, and you're only gonna get paid maybe $30 or $40. He said, no problem, I want to do that. And I kind of was a little bit impolite to him, and I kind of explained that this is a terrible business idea, and certainly after the money of spending for the transportation itself, but his time, he's going to be making maybe $3 an hour, and he continued to say that was okay, and I don't get it.
So on one part, I really admire and appreciate his hustle, because I think that's kind of lacking in a lot of people. A lot of people, even if it was just next door, they wouldn't want to do it. Even if they're broke and they have no job, and it was down the street. A lot of times people are like, still, it's beneath me. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just collect, government money, or I'd rather just just not do anything at all. So that I really appreciate his hustle. But at the same time, even hardworking people, unfortunately, if you're not putting your mind kind of towards the right thing, or doing something that can potentially grow into something else, by devaluing what our time is worth, and my time was worth nothing a few years ago, because I wasn't making any money anyways. And I was making $3 an hour because I was taking people scuba diving. I was making a Thai wage, which is $3 an hour. And at the time I didn't value my time. And that was a very, very bad thing to do, because luckily I snapped out of it. Mm-hmm. And I finally realized that my time is valuable. But I think that one mental shift is a big factor in what makes people successful or not. If you keep thinking that your time is not valuable, maybe you might end up getting stuck in this poverty loop forever.
You mentioned the word hustle, and to be honest, I hadn't thought about that angle, and that he should be applauded that he's willing to take 2 buses to train another bus to do something to earn so little. And I think you're right. I'm kind of surprised at myself for not considering that angle. And sure, he absolutely should have been applauded, and perhaps even rewarded with the opportunity to do that job for putting those pieces together to make it happen. But furthermore, to your thought process, the evolution of an entrepreneur is learning the value of our time, and what it takes to make something happen. What should we be doing? And a lesson I'm learning in my personal development as a business person is delegation, and the concept that if there's anything that someone else could do at a cheaper rate than what you can do it for, you're really supposed to delegate everything out. And the most successful people really only do the few things, and they get to a level where the things that they do is really just conceptual ideas, is developing their business, thinking of things, brainstorming. Those are the most expensive things to do, and everything else is delegated down to folks that will do it for you. I found myself still working on my own website and responding to my own Twitter things and replying to certain emails that someone for minimum wage can do.
So here's a fun question: what was your first job ever? How much money were you making per hour?
My first job was at a movie theater. And the movie theater manager had sold me on the fact that the Star Wars was coming out, and the line was going to be out the door, and that every single person would want this popcorn and a drink combo pack, and that I would get 50 cents for every person I got to get this combo pack to. And I thought it was a terrific plan to perhaps double my hourly wage.
I actually really like that, because having some kind of performance-based salary or incentive, to me, is the only way that you should ever really do business. Any job that that gives you a set amount that can never grow unless maybe you get a promotion or something. Yeah. But there's no actual performance base. I think that's a ridiculous model, because it doesn't incentivize people to work hard.
Absolutely. And if you take that a step further and think of ideas like Fiverr, and we start breaking down services by the very specific job that it is, like you said, per the job itself, is genius. You're going to try to get as much as you possibly can done, rather than work your hourly wage and with no incentive. You're absolutely right.
So I'm a big believer that if you're not meant to be an entrepreneur, you're not an entrepreneur yet, and you want to work for someone else and collect a paycheck from a company, by all means go for it, but really make sure that there's some type of performance bonus kind of built in, where if you hustle your butt off and you work really hard and you make that company money, that you're going to get rewarded for it, which is going to in turn make you want to work even harder.
Yeah, I think you're right. Most entrepreneurs, obviously, you don't start off like that. You're always going to have a few jobs first, and you start to learn, these lessons about, like you said, if you're working a job and you're a savvy person and you're creating faster ways to do things or better ways to do things, or anything like that you're not getting rewarded for, that you feel it inside. It almost creates this fire of, okay, I can do more than this.
And I think as business owners now, so as people who have employees, we should always keep this in mind. So for example, my customer service guy, he gets paid a flat rate of $150 a month just to answer calls once in a while. And if I had just left it that way, he would have, probably still, done the job, but not like in any kind of exceptional way.
Sure.
But what I had realized is when people call into one of my dropshipping stores, they're probably ready to order something. They're not just asking how long it takes to ship. They're ready to order. They kind of just need someone to kind of push them, in the right direction or help them with the order. So I told him, I said, hey, instead of you answering the question, hanging up, and then kind of hoping if they order, if you can just stay on the phone with them and have them order while you're on the phone, and you just, it's good customer service too. You just tell them like, I'll walk you through the order just in case you get stuck. Go ahead and just order on our site now. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll let you know. I'll let you know if the order goes through on our side. And the customer loves it because they want to know that there's someone there, to help guide them through the process if they have any questions. And then the reassurance of knowing that the order went through, while they're on the phone, it kind of makes them relax and know like, okay, my order's probably going to come in a few days now. Everything went through fine. I don't have to deal with it.
What were your conversions like in between the first model of getting paid per hour and switching to kind of incentivizing him? Did you see a huge increase in conversions right away, or? So
it was a little bit hard to track that specifically, but 100% like over the phone. Now, usually 6 out of 7 people that call in buy it on the spot. While before, maybe half of them would end up buying eventually, but then you might lose them to a competitor, or they might get busy, or they might forget your website or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your guy on answering the phone, he's happier to pick up the phone too, rather than, like you said, just picking up kind of answering questions, because he has that, he's getting rewarded for making the sale. He's pumped. That phone's ringing, I bet, and he's excited.
Yeah, and now his bonuses are bigger than his flat salary.
Yeah, there you go.
So now he's like really incentivized.
That's a really good idea.
And I really think this is, this can be done with any job out there. So like, for example, the main reason why I hired Anthony, the guy to edit all the podcasts, is because me and Sam came out with our new podcast, Invest Like a Boss. Right now that podcast loses, a couple $100 a month because we're not making any money from it. We're still growing our audience. We're not accepting advertisers or anything like that. But our goal is to have fun with it, to be able to connect with a lot of high value CEOs of, big companies. And eventually, as long as it keeps growing, people keep sharing it, and we have a large base, then we can make money from it. And so right now, Anthony's making a flat salary, which is actually a pretty good amount because we really do the math. He's, he does a lot of other day-to-day stuff, but he's really just, editing 8 podcasts a month. So 4 for Travel Like a Boss, 4 for Invest Like a Boss.
Sure.
So he's getting paid close to like $100 an hour just for doing that.
Oh, wow.
But if you think about it, that's something that I don't have to be doing. And, maybe it takes longer to do. Actually, it probably takes 2 hours to, edit everything, put it up. So whatever it is, it's kind of what you went back to earlier, where it would not have been it's not worth my time doing, because I can be doing something else to earn more money while doing it, or build something that could potentially earn more money later.
And that's what it is. Yeah. And I've been struggling with that for a while. But it's one of my personal growth things I'm working towards this year.
Yeah. And I think that like kind of what we just said there is kind of like the big ticket, because we're not always going to be, I'm not always doing something that is making me more money than, like editing. Like, so for example, me sitting here in this car is not making me more than $100 an hour. Us like sightseeing or like going to restaurants and stuff isn't making me more money, but it's also letting me relax and giving me experiences and ideas to hopefully have an idea or make connections that will eventually build a business that would make more money.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You may not be making money, but that value of seeing the world and eating at these restaurants and going through experiences like we're in right now, that's worth something. And it may be hard to convert that to a monetary value, but certainly I'd rather be here with you right now in this experience than sitting at my desk making that $100 an hour.
So let me ask this: so you are with us for a total of how many days?
I've been with you for it's been about I'd say 7 or 8 days so far, and we have about just under a week left, so 5 more days.
Okay, so like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So first off, I think it's pretty cool that you're able to just, pause your business, even though you're the owner, and be able to let it run still without, hopefully without, blowing up or anything. how often do you actually get to do this? How often do you actually get to just, like take a break from your business?
Well, it's I kind of worked the first 3 years, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week to get where it is now. Kind of like you said earlier, I didn't have the money per se to even delegate those tasks. So when I started to build things up and train people how to do things, I'm able to take this time away. And it's difficult for a business owner to put that trust in other folks, because at the end of the day, no one's going to care about it as much as I do. But it's working. I've been checking my emails every day while we're out traveling. Everything's just fine. There's no fires. The team is doing an exceptional job, running the show. And so now my goal is to have them continue to do that, and I'll create another business and get it going, and then have a team train them how to do it, and then grow another business, and eventually, be able to relax and just earn that income.
So real quick, the business is a mobile blood collection company.
It's real.
So when companies or athletes need to get a blood sample taken to do whatever test they need to take, instead of them going into the doctor's office, Phil's company can send and authorize people to do that.
To perform the collection. Yeah, you got it. So it's a phlebotomist. This is the trained person to collect collect blood. We send them out to doctors' offices, hospitals, laboratories, clinics, in-home collections. And as you kind of alluded to, I can't name any names, obviously, but yeah, we've certainly had some fun experiences where we've needed to send one of our folks out to collect a blood sample from people that you all listeners probably know.
So like athletes, or
yeah, there's been some athletes. There's been some folks you probably see on the TV.
Oh, like TV stars, movie stars.
Sure.
That's pretty cool. Nice. All right. So how did you actually come up with the idea of this business? And by the way, we just started the car. We got our passports back. We are officially stamped to go into the Ukraine. Excited for this.
Johnny and I are both looking through our passports now, looking for that new stamp.
Yeah. What's funny is our driver was looking through my passport earlier, seeing like pages and pages and pages of random stamps. So right out of college, what was your first like career or job?
My first job right out of college was an undercover agent trying to buy cigarettes from gas stations. Oh. So I was flowing around the country. They gave me car and travel expense and hotels, and my only job was to go to gas stations and try to get them to sell me cigarettes.
Дорогой, чё ты ящик не взял, братуха?
That's our driver yelling on a bus. And I'll assume is Russian.
Yeah, that was my first job. It was fun. I got to do a lot of traveling. Yeah.
So did you work for like the police or like who?
It was like a third party company, like an audit company, and they would audit for compliance for selling cigarettes to minors.
That's crazy. And you know what? Good on you, because like kids shouldn't be buying cigarettes anyways, and the fact that anyone even sells, like, I don't know, it's one of those things where like big tobacco, they want to make their money, and there's enforcement, and you were kind of like the guy there to kind of stop underage smoking.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
There's a word for this. It's called a narc. But listen, at the end of the day, cigarettes are it's not a good thing, and big tobacco has plenty of money, and they should certainly not sell to minors. Sometimes I was kind of like, this is not cool what I'm doing, but it's for the greater good.
Yeah. So how did you go from that to your next job? What is like your career?
Yeah. So there's a couple of years in the middle where I did some other jobs. I worked for government, municipal, and then local. Local, and then city, and I did that for a bit, and did some other jobs. Did some traveling, around the world a little bit. And then eventually I was approached by a friend of mine who worked at a large medical company, and they needed this service, this phlebotomy, this blood collection service, but nothing existed. There was maybe one or two companies, but they didn't offer the services like we kind of envisioned. So we put the pieces together, and 5 years later, we're the largest in terms of number of collectors in the. It's probably the world. There's not another organization like us. So certainly in the U.S., we have the more collectors than anyone else.
So what I really like about this is this should give everyone listening, a great business idea, and not to be a mobile blood collector because you guys have kind of that market cornered. But if you guys think of things that businesses require or people need, that right now there isn't like an easy, convenient option.
Yeah,
people will always end up paying for that. So that's always a great service to get into.
That's actually the starting point of a lot of the ideas that I have now. Is on your day-to-day activities, and you're kind of doing your thing. If there's ever a time where you pause and say, you know what, this is the least efficient way to get this done, or man, I wish that I had this to get that done or to make this happen, that stop for a second. There's your business idea, and then start speaking to people like Johnny and maybe other entrepreneurs about how to make that happen and putting those pieces together. But
it wasn't easy in the beginning, right? Like it took quite a while to even start, because I remember you telling me that your original co-founder, he after X amount of time, he was like, this is too rough. This is probably never going to take off.
No, he was actually bored. So he's more of a creative guy, and then I'm more of the implementation guy. And after about 4 or 5 months, he was bored. The phone was ringing a little bit, but he's not at all interested. He wanted to come up with another idea and move on. But I kept at it. There were certainly times where I was discouraged, where I actually needed to pick up other side jobs to keep things going. But I'm very happy I kept with it.
And I think that's a big business lesson that everyone can kind of learn from it, because in the beginning, you might think, oh, it's going to take off right away. Yeah. We're going to get this contract because we have we know somebody who, for sure they're going to introduce us to their boss, and they're going to hook us up, and we're going to get that first contract. Everything's going to be easy. But business doesn't always work out that way, right?
And in fact, they never called. So the organization that he knew needed a service, they never called us. Actually, well, they did 2 years later. And it was other organizations that had found us online. It's such a unique service that we're very, very easy to find online, and the phone started ringing. Yeah,
I like that. So if you guys have an idea either for an online or offline business, don't always expect it to be picking roses in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
it takes a while to ramp up, and if you have to work another job on the side, if you have to just do whatever it takes to get through it, it's worth it then, right?
It is. Yeah.
Very nice. So you went from, can we talk about how many millionaires do we have in the car right now?
Yeah. I know about myself. I don't know about.
So I'll say both me and the driver are definitely not millionaires.
So if we're being honest with each other and we're talking about liquid assets, I'm not at $1 million in the bank yet, but between the value of my company and then my properties and my bank account, certainly I'd be a millionaire.
So big congratulations for all of your success.
Thank you, sir.
One big thing that people are always kind of asking about, and the reason why I brought this up is. People are always saying, like, if you're traveling, these guys are big bosses, we're making, good amount of money. Why are we staying in hostels? Why are we sharing rooms? Why do we get excited when we find a meal for $3?
I love this question. I was actually pondering this a few weeks ago on my way to work. The question that I had been asked is, because I'm kind of, I'm not going to say cheap, but I'm certainly smart with my money. Okay. And there's I was with a friend earlier in the night or the night prior, and we were kind of having this conversation. They said, "Man, Phil, you have money. Why are you drinking Bud Light? Or why don't you just get another drink? Or why don't you just buy shots for everyone? Why you have the money to do this?" And the idea that my parents taught me when I was younger is, or the saying is that the rich don't get richer by giving it away. And the idea is that we have money because we keep it. And to Johnny's point is, yes, we could eat at a nice restaurant every single night. We absolutely could. But then we're not going to have as much money. And something that motivates me is being able to wake up in the morning, you see your bank accounts or you see your sales from the previous day, and that really motivates you to get more and more and more. And you're not going to get more if you're just sitting there buying expensive cars and Gucci shoes.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I actually think there's 2 types of people that become really rich. Is one, and I think that's kind of like more of the surefire route. And I kind of like a little bit of the clearly defined route is making money, saving more than you spend, and then using that money to buy assets or to produce more money.
Yeah, to produce more money, exactly.
Ironically, the other type of person who makes a lot of money is the exact opposite, where they make a little bit and they just spend all of it. But it's like this, it's one of those things where they have the big risk, mentality, go big or go home. And through kind of balling out, spending money, they end up meeting, other rich people who end up, giving them opportunities, or they end up seeing opportunities, and they, go broke something like pretty often, but then they also become very wealthy.
It's funny you said that. I was speaking with a friend of mine. I'm not going to name her, but Johnny had a chance to meet her, and she makes more money than I do. However, she drives a very nice car and rents extremely high, and she has a taste for shopping. And at the end of the day, not to say like, one's winning, one's losing, but at the end of the day, through those habits is I'm coming out on top. And you may find someone that even just makes $35,000 a year with good attitude towards spending and saving, that they're sometimes better off when you look at their credit and their bank account than someone who's driving a BMW and has a big expensive place with nice TVs and everything in there because they have $20,000 on their credit card.
Yep. I highly agree. So, definitely two, schools of thought, two ways to go for it. For me, and I would imagine most of my listeners, we like value.
Oh, yeah.
We like being able to travel on the cheap and enjoy the good things in life, but at the same time, not be too big of an idiot about it, right?
Oh, absolutely. So when I was watching this story about the creation of Amazon, 99% sure it was Amazon. They were interviewing one of the founders, and he's still driving after they hit their big success, is his old Honda Accord. And it was a couple years old, and it had cloth seats. And the interviewer said, you're a multi-millionaire running I don't think at the time it was $1 billion business, but certainly in a couple hundreds. Why are you driving this old Honda Accord? And he goes, I like it. He goes, this is my car. It's been my car for a while. Yes, I can buy a new one, but there's no need. I enjoy it.
Well, so my cousin is actually a good example. He was a wedding photographer. He still is. CurdyPhotography.com if you guys want to check it out. And for the longest time, for like the first 10 years that he was in business, even though he was probably making six figures, he was still driving an old Honda Civic hatchback.
There you go. And
he, and he's like a very Buddhist guy, and he was always like, oh, I don't, this car's fine. It still runs fine. It's clean.
Got four wheels.
It says good on gas. I don't need anything else. And one day, I don't know how it happened, but the whole family, like his parents, cousins, aunts, uncles, his sister, everyone kind of convinced him to start spending more money.
Oh, yeah.
So he went out and bought a new, and I think one of the things that they had said to him was like, oh, if you don't, spend, more money, you're never going to find a wife.
Interesting.
And I think, he was getting a bit older, so he really wanted to get married. So he went out and bought a new car. He went out and bought a nice, expensive house. And he met a girl, ended up getting married to her, had the nicest wedding I've ever been to. And he's been to hundreds of weddings. He's a photographer.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I think he just made it like he just knew, all the good stuff, right? So he knew like the best caterers, the best DJ, the best venue, everything. And it was an amazing wedding. And unfortunately, 2 or 3 years later, they ended up getting a divorce, and she just took everything from him.
Yeah, I was wondering how you're going to end that story, and I wonder if you were alluding to the possibility that they had met each other because he was spending more money, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to pick you up in this Honda Civic hatchback, because you don't show someone your bank account on the first date, right?
What's actually funny about that is one of my mentors, this guy named JP, the first millionaire I ever met, when I met him, he was driving a Honda Accord.
Yeah.
Brand new Honda Accord.
Yeah.
Lived in a, modest 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. So, you knew he wasn't like broke or anything, right?
Sure.
He always had like clean clothes, probably from the Gap or something. But like, you wouldn't think he'd be a multimillionaire. And it wasn't until at least a month, or if not 3 months later, when we went down to LA together, it was like, oh, you can come stay at my place, and I have another car down there. Turns out he had 3 cars down there. He had a Porsche 911 Turbo, a Ferrari F430, and I don't even remember what the other one was. And I was like, why do you have a Honda Accord? And his exact reason was like, he's like, when I first meet people, I don't want them knowing, who I am or how much money I have.
That's another part of it. Yeah, so you and I were kind of talking about the mindset of folks that want to keep their money and save it and spend smartly. And there's another idea, which is kind of tying into your story of the wedding, is what do people see from the outside? You pull up in this fancy car, and maybe you have big chains and sparkly watches, and maybe that says something about the people you attract, and I don't know, perhaps what you're looking at. I'm not sure.
But what the sad thing is, a lot of times we do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
We are the ones to go to a club and pop a bottle to get attention.
Sure.
Because we want that attention, and it's like this crazy vicious cycle. I really believe we attract exactly what we end up with in life.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I think you may be right. I mean, of course, sometimes you want to celebrate, you want to enjoy. Maybe you closed a big deal, or you made a lot of sales one month, and you want to go enjoy it. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you start to attract a lot of attention, and maybe that attention wants you to go out the next night at the club and do it again. And certainly, I think you're certainly onto something.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's a fine balance of not being cheap, especially when you can afford not to be cheap.
Right.
So, for example, if we only stayed at crappy places and we never balled out a bit and stayed at a nicer place, like during a special occasion where we wanted to go somewhere, or we never wanted to spend $100 on a fancy dinner to have experience the best, and we always wanted to have the cheapest food, then we'd be doing ourselves a disservice as well.
Oh, absolutely. So you want to enjoy life. So I think you're right. You have to find that good mix in between of being smart, yes, yet you want to enjoy life. You don't have to spend the nicest meal, but you don't want to have the cheapest one either. So I think you're right.
Yeah, so I think the way we're doing it right now, it works well for us. Where it's pretty much every other hotel we stay at is nice, and every other one is like not a piece of crap. Yeah, some of them are pieces of crap.
And also too is you don't want to die with any money. Of course you want to leave some for your kids, but having that money just sitting in the bank, it doesn't do anything for either. There was a good story that my mom had found in the paper. There was this young guy, worked his ass, worked 2 or 3 jobs, lived in a very small apartment, basically ate ramen every night for years. But he was able to amass something like $750,000 in cash through. But look at his life: eating ramen every night, never going out, never buying new clothes. This is yes, he had a $750,000, but what is at what cost?
Yeah, and the thing is, actually, from the sounds of that, he wasn't investing in it anyways. So
yeah, you're right.
That money is actually getting worth less and less every year.
Less. You're right. Yeah.
I think so. Here's the way I think of how to spend money, and I really think this is kind of one of the best solutions I found out there is try to make way more money than you spend, and the easiest way to do that is to live very minimalistically, normal. Keep your rent low.
Yeah.
Don't have car payments. Don't have all these keep your fixed expenses as low as possible. And enjoy kind of the simple things in life.
That's the equation is so simple, yet people constantly look at their paycheck. How can I make more money? How can I make more money? But you don't have to. Johnny's right. Just stop spending so much. When you spend $5 every morning at Starbucks, you don't think it adds up. But if you just buy a coffee maker for $20 and think of coffee, that's going to last you for a couple weeks, maybe even a month. And it's little things like that, and smaller rent, and not buying the nicest car. It truly makes some changes. You don't have to earn that bigger paycheck.
Yeah, so that's step 1 is right away you guys can start saving some money. Step 2 is with kind of living minimalistically, I find that you also you end up having more time and more mental energy to build the businesses, so to bootstrap a business. So you can take the money that you saved, because you can pretty easily save $1,000 a month by moving into a cheaper, smaller place.
Sure.
Not wasting money on crap, not eating all the time, and then use that money to bootstrap a new business that can maybe generate you extra couple $1,000 a month, and then with that money buy investments. Or build another business.
That's a really good idea.
And that's how, and kind of using the cycle. I really think this is how people can get rich in 2016, 2017.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's, spending your money on things that create value rather than just kind of throwing it. So if you're putting your money out there, no matter what it's on, it's a purchase, it's a service, something you need to live. If you're not getting anything back from it of any real value, then don't make that purchase.
So you live in Florida.
I live in Florida.
an expensive place, like what, Fort Lauderdale?
I live in Fort Lauderdale. Yep.
Okay, so what are some common things that you see people wasting money on?
Well, Florida is kind of known, especially like in the Miami area, of this over-the-top glitz and glamour. You know, these fancy clubs and these fancy cars. So it's and then you, like you said, you get caught in people that like are looking for that lifestyle and they get used to those sort of things. So it's difficult to kind of stay away from that.
So on an average weekend, if someone's going out to a club in South Beach, what are they spending?
It depends. You work your way up to maybe even 10 grand a night. Getting the nicest table and a couple bottles and champagne, and you're paying for the folks at your table too, most likely. And yeah, I can certainly get up there, but I don't. Sure, it's fun, but I don't participate like that.
But I think even like when people just go out and say, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a small night," they end up spending what, $80 minimum?
I would say minimum. Yeah, a couple
minimum?
beers, $80 easy. And then for someone like us, is yes, we have the $80 to spend, but I'm not getting that value back. Do I feel better? Do I look better? Am I going to feel better in the morning for spending that $80? No, I'm not. I'd rather spend the $80 and buy one share of some company just for fun, because the $80 is gone with those drinks and I'm never getting it back again. But if I could put just the $80, or maybe if I don't go out for a couple days, put the money into buying something or building something or supporting a project that may eventually grow one day, that's a so much better way to spend your money.
So when you mention value, like I'd rather take that $80 and here's the thing: is if you're going to a place you've never been to before, and you're with like friends celebrating something, that's one thing.
Of course, yeah, and yeah, absolutely.
But pretty often, people are going to the same club they go to every weekend,
the same bar,
seeing the same people, trying to impress the same people. Wow, that $80. What has $80 gone on us here in Eastern Europe?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it. I mean, even everything, right? So the value of $1 goes so far here, and if you even can save these $80 every week and work your way to even come to a country like this, you're gonna be surprised at what you'll be able to afford. Like
meals here, like we go out and we have the best meals. Like we're having 3-course meals with bottles of wine, and it's usually less than $20 a person. Yeah.
Well, Johnny, you and I went out last night after we had a beer, and we went out and just got a bite to eat. I think it was like $3 for both of us.
Yeah. It was nothing, and that was just a kebab, but we've been to restaurants in when we were in Sofia.
Yep.
Do you remember that first night they brought out this board with carved meats, a sword in it. We had wine there. We had appetizers. We had way too much food.
I think Johnny ordered a platter for a family, but it was 3 feet long wooden board of sausages and vegetables and potatoes and a sword coming out of it. And it was so cheap. It was good. It was authentic food.
And that was $10.
Maybe $10.
Insane.
Yeah.
So, kind of there you have it. That's kind of our way of traveling like a boss, in a way where you can enjoy great things, but still be able to save our money so we can hopefully become 4 millionaires in this car instead of just one.
I think, when I think of traveling like a boss, I don't necessarily envision this person with, flying helicopters place to place. It's really taking advantage of the situation and being the smarter person, when you travel. So, you're not just giving your money away. You're making smart decisions. That's a boss.
I like that a lot. So I'm curious, before you came on this trip and you we met, and you kind of got introduced to the first co-working space and things like that. Have you heard of this kind of digital nomad movement at all?
I read a little bit about it. And especially when you're traveling, you kind of go in cafes, you see other people working, or people hopping on their computers. But I think I'm not going the first time, but it's still relatively new. It is new. The concept that you don't have to be constrained by your location, and I was truly inspired after seeing that co-working space that you can team up with other people. So one of the difficulties of being an entrepreneur is surrounding yourself with people that can help. You're going to have questions, and you're not going to know how to do everything, and you're going to need people to team up with. And I was truly inspired by the possibility that I can go to a place, walk in, sit down, and talk to a guy at the same table that knows how to do shopping carts for websites, or someone else that knows how to do product design. And you don't have to feel like you have to go at it alone anymore.
So big shout out to Impact Hub in Bucharest, Romania. Beautiful place.
Oh yeah, really neat, really neat. Overlooking right downtown, smack dab in the city center, overlooking the parks, windows around the entire office. Very cool working space.
Yeah, it's almost kind of ironic because Romania is not really thought of a place to go to co-work, especially like Bucharest. But it kind of just shows like every city we've been to now has something.
Yeah,
and it really is growing.
Well, kind of going back a few steps, traveling like a boss, being smart with your money. Maybe Bucharest is the perfect type of place to be that coworker. I mean, the traveling digital nomad, because it's cheap. You can still get the same work done if you're in your computer, whether you're there or in Hong Kong. Your work is your work, so do it somewhere where it's cost effective for you.
I like that. That's a really smart idea. If you guys want to know more about Romania or Bulgaria co-working there, check out johnnyfd.com. I wrote kind of write-ups to both. They're called Johnny's Guides. So you have a YouTube channel, right? What's the URL for that?
It's Traveling Director. It's just kind of I put just fun videos up there, and occasionally I'll put videos in my own kind of interest in online marketing. I've found every time you go to Google, and this is for you folks out there, every time you go to Google and you can't find exactly what you're looking for, but then you do figure it out, put it online. So I've been writing a travel blog about our trip. It hasn't been online yet, but in my experiences of where to go for the train station, things that I had to figure out. A good example was one of the buses stops in a small town at something called BCR, and I had no idea what this is. And finally, when we got there, it was a bank, and that bank was not on Google Maps. I had to, find the bank's website and go to their branches and translate it all. And I put it on Google Maps that very same day. It was instantly approved, and I put a few pictures up, and it's, I dropped the pin in its location. And, I don't own that. I can't claim that spot per se, but, anyways, to go back to YouTube, so I put things up that people are searching for. If there's questions or, they want to give a tour of some place that's not up there, I own that. In one of my videos, I just hit, I'm over it now, 100,000 views. And it was something silly. I had bought a rear view camera for my new car, and I could not figure out how to install it. And so I figured it out, and I went on YouTube. I made a video, 100,000 views, because nobody could figure out how to install this camera.
I think that's such a smart way to add value to the world, but also, when people ask, how do you build an audience?
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Give them what they want.
It's find things that you wish were out there.
Exactly, that's it.
And instead of just saying, "Oh, I wish it was out there," and then forget about it,
do something about it.
Be the one. Be the creator.
Yeah,
I love that advice. So we'll have a link to Phil's YouTube channel in the show notes.
Thank you.
Any other way people can find you?
I don't use my Twitter that often. I used to do the same thing. I would kind of try to tweet things or link things to things like First, get news out there right away. But I'm kind of too busy to kind of get that. But no, the YouTube, that's probably the best one. You can probably find me online other places, but I'll give you the link to YouTube.
I like it. So we have a few more days to get in Odessa, Ukraine.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to have such a good time.
Super excited.
If we can ever get there, because we are in the car, stuck in traffic, because the roads in rural Ukraine are not the best. So this is it. Peace out, Phil. Thanks for being on the
Thanks
show.
for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
And here is a word from our driver.
Ты пидорас ебаный!
It's okay? The car's okay?
Okay. Not possible.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Tell him.
Ти підараси єбані, блядь! Нахуя ви поставили, блядь? А нахуй ви поставили посеред дороги? Ви не могли його якось...
Это кто-то сбил машину, и она вылетела. Посмотрите, они...
Ну так а хто дивиться там за ними?
Ну зачем вы так разговариваете?
Так а хто дивиться там за ними? Та ти мені нічого не зробив, блядь, я чуть машину не розбив.
Вы видите, что я иду?
Должен хто-то дивитися, чувак!
Нету людей.
Заебали, блядь, пидорасы ебучина, козлы, блядь.
English?
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus, How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.